special tunes.
All right, we're live. All right.
Woo.
We're not live. It's taped. Don't worry. This is Janette. She's here to lead the nutrition seminar. I want to thank you very much for coming and spending time on your Saturday to help us all with our nutrition. You're only in the gym for 45 minutes a day. The other 23 hours and 15 minutes are extremely important, so Janette's here to help you out.
All right, you guys. We're going to go ahead and get started. I guess before we do, I'll introduce myself. I have been a registered licensed dietitian for 19 years now. And I'm going to look this way because the people are saying this way. I think it's been 19 years. I've worked in a variety of areas, clinical, weight loss management. I'm working in dialysis right now. So pretty exciting. I have a lot of experience and a lot of wide variety with that. So, and then I'm going to have you guys introduce yourself too.
I'm Jill. I'm just a member here at the gym. I've been here for a little over 2 years.
And I'm Pam, and you guys all know me. I am the coach for the session. Been here for going on 3 years.
I will say you don't have to be a dietitian to know a lot about nutrition. So I'm going to just put that out there. Jill and Pam both know a lot about nutrition. So, and there's a lot of other people here that know a lot too. So I am licensed and registered. However, there's just a lot of people. It's all about how much you study and how much you know and how much you care about it. So, all right, we're going to get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how food is fuel for our bodies. So when I say that, what does that mean to you guys? When I say food is fuel for your bodies?
Your body uses it for energy.
Your body uses it for energy, right? Anything else? It's like gas in the car, right? In order for the car to go, we have to put good fuel in it. So think about all the reasons why we eat food. Give me some examples. Why do we eat food? All the different reasons.
Tastes good.
Tastes good. Bored. Happy. Social. Absolutely social. Social is a huge part of it. So there's lots of different reasons. It could be birthday, it could be graduation. There's so many different things playing into that. And then we can get to a point where we cross the line and have this unhealthy relationship with food. And then how far is too far, right? When it starts to monopolize our life and it's all we think about and we start to develop these really bad habits, it's like that's how you know you're crossing the line with having a healthy relationship. Obviously, if you don't eat the right types of foods, you're not going to get the results that you're wanting. I encourage you to find a way to make this a permanent thing. How can this extend beyond the 10 weeks? And for me, nutrition has been ever developing since I was a little kid, watching my mom do Weight Watchers and Sweat into the Oldies with Richard Simmons. And I watched her struggle with weight loss all of my growing up. And it was really fascinating to me, and that's how I wanted to be a dietitian, was watching her lose weight, exercise, diet, and it's like, wow, you can actually lose weight and change the way your body looks? That's really cool. So to some degree, I'm sure all of you guys have an interest in nutrition. So I encourage you to be a student, be a learner, don't stop learning, okay? I'm always learning still. Okay, so when we talk about guidelines, we need to balance our daily intake with the right amount of carbs, protein, and fat. These are the three main macronutrients that make up our food. When it comes to the Farrell's approach, they use the KISS approach, which is keep it simple, stupid. You don't have to count calories, right? You can use the hand and fist method for counting protein and carbohydrates. So that's kind of nice if you're really not wanting to be too specific with things. We can make it very simple for you. I would say, I know several people that just keep it on the simple side and they do well with it. I want you to focus on whole foods like lean meats, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. So first we're going to start with calories. Most of you or all of you probably have done the in-body scan, right? So you have your basal metabolic rate is in the upper right hand corner. So if you don't have that number, that's okay. We can get that for you. But a good starting point for your calories is anywhere from 1.4 to 2 activity factor multiplied by that basal metabolic rate. Okay, so if you're looking for weight gain, muscle gain, you don't really need to lose weight or lose a big amount of fat. You're going to go upwards towards that 1.8 to 2, because there are people that just want to get bulky, right? And if you're looking to lose, then I want you to stay more between, gosh, it can really range anywhere from like 1.3 all the way up to 1.7. So we can kind of play around with those numbers. I just need you eating more than your basal metabolic rate, because that basal metabolic rate is really just what you're burning at a resting rate without moving your body or shoveling snow or anything like that. That's what you're burning at a resting rate. And remember, that is just an estimate, okay? There's calculators online that you can find. As a dietitian in the hospital, when I worked there, we used like the Mifflin St. George, we used the Harris-Benedict equation, and when I played around with that and compared it to the BMR on the in-body scan, it's actually really close. So I think it's pretty reliable.
You guys don't have yours, but I will get them to you this weekend. Now that it's all electronic, they don't print.
Yeah.
So I will get those for you.
Now, other things that I've done, if you have a ton of weight to lose, a good starting point too is 15 to 20 calories for every kilogram of actual body weight. Okay, and then if you want to lose anywhere from 20 to 25 calories per kilo, and then if you want to gain or bulk, it's 30 up to 40. So there are calculators too, even if you don't have your BMR. So determining your calorie needs is a tricky process because we're just kind of guessing, right? So you're going to play around with these numbers, and if you don't see the results that you want, that's when we're going to tweak that. Keep in mind, as you build your lean body mass, your basal metabolic rate's going to go up because you're gaining muscle, right? And muscle does what? It what?
Burns more calories.
Yeah, it actually raises your metabolic rate. Why is that? Because it requires more energy. Think of each and every muscle like a metabolic engine in the body. This is a metabolic engine, this is a metabolic engine. So the more you build each muscle all around, all over your body, the more you're going to raise that BMR. That's why we don't want you to miss strength training. So very important. That is probably one of the more important ones. Some of you have tried probably in the past being in a severe energy deficit. I'm going to tell you that hardly ever works, okay? I've worked with very low calorie weight loss programs, and it's maybe good for a quick jump start, but long term, it usually doesn't work for most people, right? It's not something that you can do lifelong. And I really like to try to promote, like, don't just do something different for this 10 weeks. How can you make this a part of your lifestyle? Okay? Any questions about calories? Okay. Now we're going to move into protein. Proteins are made up of amino acids, also known as building blocks for your body. So your body actually uses these amino acids to build and repair muscles, bones, hormones, and enzymes. So protein is super important, right? Having a strong immune system is a big topic right now, right? Because of all the viruses going around. Well, your amino acids actually help to build those Superman cells in your body. So I won't go into what all those different cells are, but super important to make sure you're getting enough protein. I also like to think if you're not getting enough protein, your body will get what it needs, even if it has to eat 50 slices of pizza to get the protein that you need physically. So I do believe that your body will do that. So very important to make sure you're getting your protein. It's actually not the preferred energy source of the body. Did you know that? Carbohydrates actually are. Some of you probably know that. And then it's fat, and then it's protein. So protein is saved last, and that really makes sense, right? Because chronic wasting or chronic undernutrition, you're going to start to deplete that muscle later on. That doesn't happen at first. The body protects itself. Protein that can help curb cravings. I recommend about 25 to 30% of your calories coming from protein. So actually, we do have a calculation for that. So that's why I brought this. I don't know if that video can see it, but if we're looking at 1,800, and I think I came up with this number for myself here, so 1,886 calories per day. Let's say that's what I've calculated as my goal. And I want 25% of my calories to come from protein. So I'm going to multiply that by 25%. And what's that going to give me? That's going to give me the calories that need to come from protein. So I get about 471 calories per day coming from protein. This is a hard question. I don't know if you guys know it, but do you know how many calories per gram it is for protein? How many calories are in 1 gram? You got it. So what are we going to do? We're going to divide that by 4, right? And we get 117 grams of protein a day. Okay? And we can share, I can share these slides with you guys. So 117 grams of protein a day is gonna be my goal. The Farrell's approach is the portion size being the size of the palm of your hand. It's helpful to have a scale if you're gonna do that. And I just think for protein, it's good to have a scale anyway. So let me get my scale out here. How many of you guys have a scale at home? I gotta say I don't use mine all the time. It's certainly not a fancy one. This is old, many years old. But it just looks like this. And it takes batteries. You know, you can stick your bowl on there or your plate. And then it has a zero out function, so I can zero this out. And then I would put my meat in there. And then it would tell me how many ounces that is. Or grams if you're keeping track of grams. But I would say for protein it would be ounces. So you could do it that way just to make sure exactly how much protein you're getting there. There's usually about 7 grams of protein in every ounce of meat. Okay? So the scale is kind of nice when it comes to protein, because otherwise if you're just estimating with your hand, it's pretty vague there. Page 10 in your book has a nice list of proteins. Basically it's going to be anything that walks, swims, or flies. So let's start talking about what are some good protein things that we like. Let's share, everybody. Chicken. Tuna.
Salmon.
Yep, salmon. What else? Beef. Eggs. And then nuts. Grains actually can have some protein in there too. Like quinoa is a good source of protein. Milk has 8 grams of protein in just a cup. That's significant. That's the equivalent to 1 egg. Cheese, 1 ounce of cheese has 7 grams of protein. Yogurt, depends, you know, a lot of them are fortifying protein in there. So they can go as high as like 25 to even to 30 grams of protein per serving, depending on what you're buying. So there's lots of different protein sources. You know, and I think it's just thinking outside of the box. And if you get really stuck on protein, you're like, oh my gosh, Janette, I just can't seem to get my protein. And there's certainly a lot of other products too, like protein shakes and protein bars, the Quest bars, the Luna bars, the Kind bars, the Cliff bars, the One bars, Built bars. Peanut butter is a good source of protein. So there's lots of ways to get extra protein. And that's where being a part of a group, we can kind of share. It's like, oh yeah, I struggle with that too, but here's what's working for me. Cottage cheese, that's super high. Half a cup has 15 grams of protein. So if you're eating that full cup, that's 30. So that, but just keep in mind that's real high in sodium. What questions do we have about protein? Okay. So I think those are the 2 most important things, is definitely set your calorie goal and then set your protein goal. Carbohydrates, we'll move on to that. This is the next macronutrient. This one is the preferred energy source for the body, okay? So it prefers this kind of fuel over any kind of fuel. It should make up about 40 to 50% of your total calorie goal, but sometimes people go lower. I've gone lower to get a little bit of a jump start, and then as I'm like really, really active, then I might escalate all the way up to 50% or half of my calories coming from carb. Just keep in mind, I mean, everybody does this different. There's no right or wrong way. If you want to go lower on the carb, you certainly can. If you want to go a little bit higher because that's where your comfort is, and then you want to play around with it, you can do that. But I would say it's definitely a range. So it's going to be the same thing as protein. There's 4 calories in every gram of carbohydrate too. So that's super easy, right? I would say, you know, the only difference would be with this calculation, you're going to multiply this by maybe 30 to 50%, whatever you want that to be. Okay? How many of you are on MyFitnessPal or some sort of a food logging app, device, whatever? And you don't have to be. But if you go into MyFitnessPal and you set your calorie goal, you can just change the dial with your percentages, and that's fun. You know, because you can say, oh, I'm going to change my carb to 45 and my fat to 30 and my protein to 25 or whatever you want to do. So that's kind of nice because it does it all for you. But you can also do it manually. When it comes to that Farrell's method, the portion size is going to be the size of your fist for your carbohydrate. And that certainly works too. Page 10 has a nice list in your book of what carbohydrates are. Okay? So before we talk about our list of carbohydrates here, fiber is a part of carbohydrates, okay? Some are digestible and some are indigestible. The best way I can explain this is an apple. The skin on an apple is not, you can't break that down. It goes all the way through your body, just like corn. The whole of the corn goes all the way through your body. But the inside of the apple is a digestible fiber, and that gets digested and absorbed. I want you to think of fiber as kind of that cleansing tool, okay? So it cleans out the whole body. It really helps with blood pressure. It helps with blood sugar control if you have diabetes or if you're worried about that. So the benefits go on and on. Colon cancer risk, you name it. So the higher the fiber you can get, really the better, as long as you're drinking adequate fluid, and we'll get to that. But your fiber should, if you're not doing high fiber now, you want to slowly step into that, because otherwise you'll have problems. But I would say I average 35 grams of fiber per day. And if you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables and whole grains, you're going to hit that, no problem. If you're lower on the calories though, I could see where that could be a problem, and you could always add in a supplement like Metamucil or something like that to help you out until you can get higher on that level. So let's talk about what are some examples of carbohydrates. Oatmeal. Rice. What else? Breads in general, right? Cereals, I think I heard. What about fruit? Fruit's a carbohydrate. What else counts as a carbohydrate? What about corn? Potatoes and peas, and I put the word sweet in front of them. Sweet corn, sweet peas, sweet potatoes. That kind of helps you remember that those have more of a starchy structure than a lot of your other vegetables, like spinach, for example. There's more sugar in there. And does that mean it's a bad sugar? No. That's a great sugar. That's major energy. Corn is major energy, right? Potatoes are major energy. And that type of energy takes a lot for our body to break down. It gets stored in the liver, and when you're getting ready to bust out a major workout, it's going to pull it and use it for that energy. So you want that kind of stuff to fuel your workout. I don't want you to be afraid of carbohydrates. Okay, I feel like we are today. A lot of people are going really low. They're not successful. They go back to whatever they were doing before, which was way too much, and then they try to go back to being really low. And there's nothing wrong with going up and down with it too. I've done that before, where maybe you have a little bit more on your strength training days than you do your kickboxing days. So what else about carbohydrates? Did I pretty much cover that? You feel like? Okay. The next topic is sugar. So this is anything that's added, right, to a food. So it's not really a whole food, but it's going to be honey, high fructose corn syrup, agave nectar, brown rice syrup, sugar, maple syrup. There's so many things, so many names right there. And if you just type into Google all the names of sugar, you're going to see lots of stuff there. Sucrose would be another name for sugar. So we know that sugar isn't the best, right? It increases insulin production, inflammation, triglyceride levels, risk for cancer, risk for heart disease. Sugar goes to the liver to be metabolized, and whatever is not used gets stored as fat, right? And that's really any macronutrient. So if you go over your calorie goal, what's going to happen to those excess calories? No matter if it's protein, carb, or fat, it's going to get stored in the body, right, as positive energy, and you'll gain weight. So ultimately, if you want to lose, you have to be at or below. You have to kind of find that level that you need to be at and stay below that to keep losing weight, okay? And so when we're talking about sugar, it is pretty restrictive. The American Heart Association recommends only 24 grams of sugar per day for women, or 6 teaspoons per day. If we're including added sugars, it's 48 grams a day. For men, they get 36 grams of sugar or less, and then 72 grams per day for total, including natural sugars. So when I say natural sugars, I'm talking about fruit, because fruit is all sugar, okay? But if there's 30 grams of carbohydrate or sugar in a banana, do we count that as an added sugar? No, because it's natural. It's 30 grams of natural sugar, okay? So I think it's very hard for people to follow this. There is another recommendation for 50 grams a day of added sugar. And so that's certainly there as well. I would say it's pretty hard. It's pretty eye-opening if you watch your sugar, but I highly recommend it. Ways to decrease your intake. Share your thoughts. How can we cut back on our added sugars? What comes to mind when we say added sugars? What?
Like soda.
Yeah. Yeah, like regular pop or energy drinks, even Gatorade has a lot of sugar in it. Yep. So, and how can we cut back on that?
More water.
Water's probably best, right? Or going with a sugar-free beverage. What else with your added sugars? Can you think of anything else? Candy. What's that?
Coffee creamer.
Coffee creamer, yes. There's so many chemicals in coffee creamer too, right? Has a huge chemical load. If you look at that list, it's really long. So that's a good one. Anything else? Candy? Nobody eats candy? I know you guys do. So candy is a huge one. If we look at Skittles, I don't even know how many teaspoons of sugars in Skittles, but it's a lot. Or Mountain Dew is actually pretty high too. So cutting back on that sugar, you're going to notice some positive things, I feel like, with your overall mood and your health. Artificial sweeteners, you know, some people say it can make you crave sweets more because your body's getting the taste and the hunger for sugar. I would say just go with whatever works for you, okay? If you like artificial sweeteners, by all means use them. There's a couple natural ones, monk fruit and stevia, that you could use if you're concerned about that. Some people get headaches. And again, I'm pretty neutral on this. If you don't want to consume those things, you don't have to. Okay, we're going to move on to fat. So this is the last macronutrient. Fat has twice the calories of carbohydrate protein. So it's stacked. There's 9 calories for every gram of fat that you consume. So I don't want to make fat seem like it's bad, okay? But before we get into that, we'll talk about the different types of fats. So you have 2 unhealthy fats, saturated and trans. Some of you have probably heard of that. And then you have some really heart-healthy ones, like the monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, the omega-3 fats. And those are going to be better for you. When it comes to your total calorie intake, fat, it can really vary. I like to play around with my protein and my carb, and then the rest kind of goes to fat. But remember, there are benefits to consuming fat in your diet. First of all, it makes you feel full, so you have to have fat in your diet. So if you eliminate fat, I feel like your body just keeps eating until it gets satiated, and maybe you end up splurging on too many carbs and too many calories. It helps with fat-soluble vitamin absorption, keeps your body warm, helps with hormones, protects our organs, and again, it helps to keep us satisfied. So having a little bit of fat is good, but maybe more of those plant-based fats if you're concerned about your heart and just overall health. The unsaturated fats by far are the best type of fats to consume more in your diet. Okay. Any questions about that? No? All right. So now we're going to talk about fluid. We want you to aim for 80 to 100 ounces a day. You need this much at least, especially if you're working out 6 days a week and sweating. So you're losing fluid by sweating. Remember that water also comes from your food, right? Like what? Your vegetables, your fruits especially, even rice and pasta carry water. The benefits is that water carries nutrients and oxygen to your cells, helps with blood pressure, it regulates your body temperature, it maintains electrolyte balance, it cushions your joints, it aids in digestion, and it gets rid of waste in the body. I would say signs that you're not getting enough, and this is a lot of people, you guys. A lot of people are in a chronic state of dehydration, I feel like. Your mouth is dry, your lips are dry, energy is low, you're feeling weak, concentrated smelling urine or dark colored urine, constipation chronically, muscle spasms even, headaches, chronic bad breath can be a sign that you're not getting enough water. So make sure you work on this because this is also going to help with you losing weight. I feel like drinking enough water, it does give you more energy, and I feel like it curbs my cravings, which is crazy, but it does. It really works. if I'm hungry and it's not quite time, it's like, how are you doing on your water? Okay, time to drink another glass. Just make sure you're successful with it. Find a way to keep track. Anything about water? Or any tips on how to get creative with water?
How do you guys feel you're doing with your water? Okay, you're just gonna agree. Okay.
And just remember, caffeine does dehydrate you, okay? It really increases urinary excretion of fluids. So you can, if you're doing too much caffeine, you know, it can be counterintuitive. So just make sure that you're really, I find when I do drink caffeine, that when I do, I have to go kind of above and beyond with that water. I just feel like I'm drinking water all the time, but I love it. Okay, so we've kind of covered a lot of the basics. So now I want to talk a little bit about the food label. So I'm going to have each of you come up here and grab a food label off the table for this next exercise. So we'll start up here and work our way down. Come grab a food label, whichever one you want. So when we look at the nutrition facts label, you're going to see at the top serving size. Can you guys find your serving size? A lot of you probably already know how to do this. It's not a recommendation of how much you should eat or drink. It's not, okay? So just keep that in mind, that just because the serving size is 22 pea crisps, that's not how much I should have necessarily, okay? The other thing too is you're going to notice right below that, above that, the servings per container. So on my pea crisps, if I eat the whole package, I have to multiply 130 calories times 3. And what is that? 390? So 390 calories if I eat this whole bag. So make sure that you're doing that. And the same would be true for all the macronutrients listed below that. So calories is going to be nice and in bold, and when they changed the food label, they wanted to make sure that was a standout item. So you'll notice that all of your nutrients are on there. You have total fat, and some of you might, everybody should have saturated and trans listed below fat, but some of you might even have the mono unsaturated fat and the polyunsaturated fat. So some companies, if they're really promoted to health and they want to show that off, they'll put that on there, but it's not mandatory. But it's kind of fun to see that. You'll see cholesterol, you'll see sodium, carbohydrates. Underneath carbohydrates, you'll see dietary fiber and total sugars there. And then a separation for added sugars and then protein. And then below that, you have different vitamins and minerals that's important to you. So, nutrients to get less of would be saturated fat, obviously. Saturated fat I like to think of as animal fat. So it comes from animals. That there's lots of evidence to support that definitely decreases your risk for heart disease. So we want to get less of that. Sodium is a nutrient to get less of. We know that if we eat a diet that's super high in sodium, that the heart doesn't really like it. The heart's in charge of regulating blood pressure and regulating fluid. And we do need actually more salt than most people because we're working out, we're killing it. We're sweating, we're losing salt, right? I mean, if you go for a long run or a kickboxing workout and you wipe your forehead, if you ever tasted like your tears running into your mouth, it's like super salty, right? So you're losing some salt that way. So we actually do, I think we should probably consume up to 4,000 milligrams a day working out and being active. But you don't want to go much above that. Added sugars, that's a nutrient we should get less of because we know that that's just not good for us and it promotes abdominal obesity and we don't want that, we want less of that. Nutrients to get more of would be dietary fiber. This is a type of carbohydrate. Remember, it's your fruits, your vegetables, your whole grains. Vitamin D is something we need to get more of. Calcium for our bones, iron, and potassium. When we look at the percent daily value, that's all the way to the right of each nutrient. So 5% or less is considered to be low. and then 20% or more of that nutrient is considered to be high. So I like to think that those top things like the sat fat, the trans fat, the added sugars, we want 5% or less. But the things that we know are helpful to us and beneficial to us, like fiber, we want to try to get 20% or more. And remember, this is just a guide, because really you have to look at the food for what it is. There's more things. We got to look at the big picture. We can't get so narrow focused. So just remember, that's just kind of a general guideline. Sodium, the recommendation is 2,300 or less per day. I think you can easily go up to 4,000. Most Americans consume 8,000 to 12,000 milligrams a day, no joke, especially if you're going out to eat all the time. Added sugar, the daily value is set at 50 grams, but if you want to follow the American Heart Association recommendation, it's the 25 for women, 36 for men. Not fair. Men get more. Fiber, I would say a good starting point is like 20 to 25 grams of fiber per day, and then you can always go up from there. But remember, with an increase in fiber, you have to increase your water. Water is super important. And just think of fiber as like a scrubby brush all over inside your body, cleaning out all the gunk in the pipes at your house, right? Who knows what's running through our pipes? Gross. But like inside, we got to make sure that stuff is clean. And it's also all a muscle. So we want to support the integrity of that muscle. And we do that by eating fiber, because it's like a baseball going through this little tiny hose, and it really exercises that muscle. Okay? So fiber, super important. When we look at the ingredient list, this is very telling, and this is where I spend most of my time when I'm looking at a food label, always looking at the ingredient list, because they can't hide what they're putting into my food right here. So I'll read mine: green peas, canola oil, rice, salt, calcium carbonate, and vitamin C. So the first three ingredients I like to really pay attention to, because that's mostly what the food is made out of. Your first ingredient goes by weight. So green peas is mostly what this is made out of. And then the next ingredient is canola oil, and then rice. So it's a little bit higher on the fat, okay? But if I keep it to a certain serving size, I think it's okay, all right? Let's go around the room real quick with your ingredient list, and then anything else you notice. Who wants to share? Who wants to be vulnerable? You'll go? Awesome, thank you.
So the ingredient list of a Carb Balance Mission tortilla is water, modified wheat starch, whole wheat flour.
Okay.
And then the carbs are 18 and the dietary fiber is 15.
Wow, so it's super high in fiber. So to do that, the net carb thing, you can also subtract the fiber from the carbohydrate to get kind of that net carb. So this is a food that's super, super high in fiber. So how many calories was it?
70.
70? And how much sodium?
300.
Is that high? Yeah, it's high. Most generally, but it's okay. I mean, the thing is, sometimes when they add fiber and try to go lower on the carb, you'll notice, or lower on the sugar even too, that they'll add a little more sodium. So it's just something just to watch or be careful of. Anybody else want to share? You want to share? You have the same thing?
But like smaller.
Oh, how about your yogurt? How does that, what's the first ingredient?
Reduced fat milk, and then sugar and blueberries.
Okay, so reduced fat, milk, sugar, and blueberries. The difficult thing about yogurt is milk, it has a sugar in it called lactose. And so oftentimes when you're looking at the total sugars, it won't differentiate the natural versus the added. So it's kind of hard to know. But in this case, we go to the ingredient list to find out. So we know that milk is the first ingredient, and then sugar before blueberries. I'm not okay with that, right? So it's probably got quite a bit of sugar in there.
It says 20 grams total, 14 grams of added sugars.
That's way too much. I don't even let my kids pick out a cereal with that much sugar in it. 6 or less. Yeah. So that one would probably not be the best choice. You want to look at the Waco's? Since you have the same food label, how does that look compared to hers? You guys can compare them together.
So for sugar, so actually the ingredients, it's the only ingredient in this is cultured grade A non-fat milk. For sugars, it has 6 total and 0 added.
There we go. And where are those 6 grams of sugar coming from?
Natural sugars.
The milk. Yep. So there's 2. Good job. There's 2 now. I know milk doesn't taste like it's sugar, right? I know it's confusing, but lactose is a sugar, and so yeah, it's coming from the milk. Good. Awesome. Anybody else want to share what they have? Does anybody have the 1 bar, or it's up here, isn't it? So like this has just 1 gram of added sugar, and it has some sugar alcohols in there too. 20 grams of protein, 22 grams of carb, 8 grams of fiber. So when I'm looking at a protein bar, the last thing I want to be eating is a candy bar with protein in it. A lot of them have too much added sugar. So this one is a great one because there's just 0 grams of added sugar in this. I also like the Built bars. I've recently discovered those, and I think there's like 5 grams of added sugar. But when I'm in a pinch, that's totally worth it. Because like I said, the last thing I want, I mean, it tastes good, a protein fortified Snickers bar. I'm sure that would be excellent, right? Like tasty, but you just got to be careful, right? Because then you could be getting all this added sugar that you don't want. Okay. The longer the ingredient list, the more processed that food is. So a good example of that would be like when we look at a banana, or like your yogurt. What's the ingredient? Well, it is what it is. It's a banana, right? Versus ramen noodles. That list is like long, right? It's super long and it's full of chemicals. So we want to maybe try to limit that. So let's talk about the fun day. You guys know about the fun day? Tell me what you know about it.
You don't necessarily have to track what you're eating.
Mhm. Well, yeah, it's kind of a day to let go, right? Like to not be so mental. So it's an 8 to 12 hour period. I've been told, 1 day per week. So there's a cutoff on the hours, right? That's what I've been told. It's earned by sticking with the program for 6 days that week, any day of the week, but only once. Typically, people do it on Saturday. You don't want to overdo it because it can really upset what you've accomplished for the whole week. So you'll find that some of us do this and some of us don't. I have the philosophy that I'm going to try to eat healthy just almost every single day. And if I, for one day, for whatever reason, feel like I need to go up on my calories, I'm going to try to do that in a healthy way. Keeping in mind that none of us are perfect with that. Make sure you drink lots of water. And another rule that I have is make sure you get your protein in. Because if you get your protein in, you're less likely to overeat on any one thing. And I try to cheat with healthy foods that I like. So that's something to consider. Not everybody's the same way. But any questions about the fun day? Okay. Meal planning. So some of us do this and some of us don't, but definitely carve out some time during the week or on the weekend, whatever day works for you with your work schedule, whatever you do, to prepare your meals for the week. And it's not necessarily prepare, but think about what you're going to eat, right? You don't have to prepare it all, but you have to have a plan. People that have a plan do better. People that have a grocery list do better in the store. If I don't, my God, I'm buying things like, oh, I definitely want to try that. Like I'm hungry or whatever. So make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. Shop the ads, the sales, come up with your recipes, get some interest, in what you're cooking, because if you don't have an interest in what you're making, or if you don't get excited, you're not gonna eat it. Like my son made hamburgers, and it was his first time making hamburgers. Isn't that funny? He's 19. And he burnt them to a crisp, and he didn't eat them all week. He just left them in the fridge. So I tried to tell him he was overcooking them, but he didn't listen to me. So anyway, long story short, just make sure that what you have, if you're not excited about it, you're not going to be successful.
Did anybody try the meal plan for week 1 this week? Did any of you guys try it? Or as a guide? Yeah?
Tell us about it.
I stuck with it based on a rough outline on how to do my meals. Like I took the protein and I took the carb and vegetable and stuff based on the meal plan.
Do you feel like that was good enough for you?
Yeah.
And it's easy.
Yeah.
How about you, Cody?
The only thing I did was change out the avocado, so I don't like avocados, so I just put some things
Yeah. And it worked for you. You liked it, yeah. And it's simple, right? When I first started Farrell's, I committed to just following the program completely to a T, and that was many years ago, keep in mind. But I am not kidding. That method totally worked for me, and it was easy and it kept me on track. It just gets a little hard when you have like a mixed meal, right? It's like, ooh, how do I count that if I'm making enchiladas or something like that? But you can easily break that down and count it. So I'm glad that worked for a lot of you guys. Meal planning I guess what I'm trying to say is this whole program can be done with your whole family. I get a lot of, I need to cook separate for myself, and then I have to cook for my husband, and then I have to cook for my kids, or whoever's in your house. You really don't have to do that. Everybody should be eating what you're eating. I always tell my kids, if you don't like it, fine. You don't get a snack later and you'll go to bed. I mean, that's just the deal. And if they're complaining about being hungry, I'm like, you can have a glass of water. I am not going to make another meal. That's just spoiling them, right? It really is. So very important to just be firm with that and you're the parent, okay? Get rid of this keyboard. There we go. Okay. So you can go to Pinterest, the Farrell's Cookbook. You can talk to your coach. You can talk to people about just different recipes. If you're stuck, reach out to us and we can help you. When you're going out to eat, how many of you like to go out to eat at some point? It's a social thing. I don't want you to give that up, okay? You can't make this just something completely different from what you're normally doing, but you can make healthier choices. So you want to plan ahead, just like meal planning, right? So before, if I know we're going to Subway, I'm going to figure out what can I have at Subway? How am I going to hit my protein goal? How am I going to get my vegetable? How am I going to get all my things? And feel full, right? And be satisfied. So make sure you have a plan before you go. Choose lean meats without breading. Leave off the high-fat sauces. How many of you have worked in restaurant and fast food? I have for a long time. Before I got into my dietetics degree, we're accommodating. Like if people didn't want me to add salt to their french fries, I would leave that off. Or, people, they can be pretty darn accommodating if you need them to be. Choosing baked over fried, load up on your protein and your veggies. And if you go to a restaurant, you're just going to have more options there, right? Snacks, this is kind of a big topic too. What can I have for my smaller meals? Do you guys have any idea of snacks? Nuts, cheese sticks, what else? What's that?
Hard-boiled egg.
Hard-boiled egg. Yep. Anybody tried hummus? Veggies and hummus? Your face, that was awesome. Deli meat, crackers, cheese, protein shakes, protein bars, string cheese, fruit, cottage cheese, fruit, nuts, hard cooked eggs, yogurt, fruit. There's lots of things we can have. But we got to have those snacks ready to go to be successful. Some tips that I can share with you is to track it, share it, and be honest. I don't care how you track it. I don't care how you plan. It can be in your head. That's fine. But then I want you to be able to share that and be accountable to it no matter what you're doing. Because remember, there's value in being honest with yourself. Because it's easy to just be like, I didn't eat that Snickers. It didn't happen. Make it realistic, otherwise it's not going to work for you. Okay? Try some new recipes. And if this is overwhelming for you and you're not used to that, just pick one super easy recipe. Start with that and go from there. Build your confidence with it. Do not skip a meal if you can. That's super important. That's why Farrell's has the several small meals a day. And we do that for a reason, right? Because we're trying to fuel all of the muscle that we're building in the body. And those muscles need that little bit of protein all day long. So it's super important to get those small meals in. Prepping ahead of time can save you time if you're busy like me. Try to get your family on board. Have them help you cook, have them help you plan. Get your water in and get creative with it. Remember, it's 80 to 100 ounces or more per day. Plan to eat more at home and think about eating out as a treat. Because some of us, it's like eating out is the norm and eating at home is the treat. So it kind of depends where you're at, but try to eat more at home if you can, because then you're just not going to get all that processed stuff. Listen to your body. Do not eat if you're hungry. Don't eat just because it's 10 a.m. and it's time for my next small meal. Evaluate, am I really hungry for this? Maybe you just need a glass of water. Put focus on what you can have and less about what you can't. Use the non-scale victories to measure your success, like your clothes, your rings, maybe a selfie picture every day. Endurance, push-ups, sit-ups, waist measurement. Maybe it's a belt that you're using. Maybe your rings are gonna fit different. I always tell people, make your food beautiful. Because if you do, it's gonna be so exciting to eat it. Does anybody else like to make their food beautiful? I love that. Like the food artist stuff. I'm not good at it, but it's fun. Using motivational quotes, videos, recordings to keep yourself motivated. If you're not setting goals or if you haven't done that, I encourage you to start now. Make sure you reward yourself every single week with something that's not food related. Reward yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back. Like, what are you going to go do? Maybe you're going to go get a massage or something like that. Maybe you're going to go to Thrive. It's my favorite place. Watch your sugar intake. Try to limit that as much as you can. Focus on protein. We know that it can help prevent weight gain, reduce cravings, build lean body mass. And remember that we are not perfect, but we do know that if we put the right food in our body, it's just going to give us a killer workout and we're going to get the results that we're looking for. Okay? And all of these numbers are really just a guide. But if you feel uncomfortable or like not sure if that's right, that's where you reach out to one of your coaches or any of us, and we can help evaluate that for you. And if you have any special intolerances or allergies or things like that that you're like, I'm just not sure what to do, and you don't want to bring it up in front of the group, message me. Send me a message through Facebook, or we can connect that way by phone too, or text, and I can help you with that one-on-one. Because I know there's a lot of things personally that people aren't comfortable with sharing.
So Janette, we did have one question about lactose intolerance. So
Okay.
what are some ideas there of how to hit goals without keeping that in mind?
Yeah. So with lactose intolerance, it's hard because it's some people are severely lactose intolerant. So my recommendation with that would be just to avoid all things dairy. And again, it just depends on the degree of it. They do make like lactase pills, enzyme pills that you can take with your food to help with the breakdown of that milk sugar. But if there's something specific with that person, they can definitely message me. Like if they're severely intolerant, more like a food allergy, then we can talk about like if it's like the bars. I think the protein bars can have some lactose in them from the protein. Breads can be a source of it too, so they can definitely message me for specifics on that. Lactate milk is a good option, or non-dairy milks like soy milk and almond milk, and yeah.
What's the best way to contact you? Did you say Facebook, or what's the best way
So
to?
Jeanette's in our Facebook group for our challenge now, so you have an invite.
Okay, I was like, I don't know if I am.
Yes, you are as of today.
Great.
So let's try that first, so we're not inundating her. So let's try to use that, and then we'll go from there if we need to do one-offs.
Yeah.
Just to keep things a little contained. And your question might have value for another person in the group. So we can really sort of crowdsource some of these questions. So let's try there first. Would be my recommendation.
You could also, if you're not comfortable, send me that message and then I can post it generically to the group. So that's kind of fun too. That way, like Pam said, everybody can benefit from it. I know I've left some things out, so I'm going to let you two come up here and talk. Is there anything else?
Go ahead, Jill. Is there anything you wanted to share?
You guys are like, no.
I'm just gonna stay right here because that makes me nervous.
Okay.
I would say probably one of my biggest obstacles when I first came in here was always trying to compensate. So if I screwed up and I didn't eat right, or I had a week where I just binged, I ate, I would overcompensate. So I would try and come in and do doubles here. I would go out and run like crazy. Or I would be really restricted in my eating, thinking that I am going to find this balance. That's ridiculous. Don't do it. It's a horrible mindset to get into. If you mess up 1 time, 10 times, it does not matter. Jump back on and go. You're not going to outrun your fork.
Yes.
You are not going to overcompensate in here. It's not going to happen. So that's my biggest advice. Really work on shifting that mindset and making the healthy focus and the healthy change, and just move forward and jump back on at the next opportunity that you have.
And I would probably add into that, until you do the nutrition, it doesn't matter what you do in the gym. You're not going to get there until you quit lying about what you're eating to yourself, because that's really who matters with this. And you can learn to like some veggies. You can learn to like some. And if you're like me that don't love, an air fryer is a great thing. So make things easy for you, change the texture of it up. But really it is, you got to find a balance. And like Jill said, you can't out-train, what your choices are. So make the best ones you can. Nobody's perfect, but you can be a little bit better each day.
Yeah, and don't feel like if you've messed up early in the morning and had that donut at work because you were tempted, because I have these temptations every day, that you've screwed up for the whole day and you're just going to let the whole day go up in flames. So get right back on right away. Message your coach, message your friend within the group, and just be like, or even message to the whole group and be like, I messed up today, but I'm ready to get back on track, and I guarantee you everybody is going to jump right in to support you. So I want you to feel like you're supported here. There's no wrong idea or wrong thing. If you post your meal, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Nobody's going to come and say, I can't believe you ate that, and I can't believe you posted it here. Nobody's going to say that. It's totally fine. So we definitely learn from each other. Some of you know more about nutrition than others, and I learn best from other people. And I know you guys too, so I hope you feel comfortable sharing, because the closer we get as a group, the better our results are going to be, because we're better as a team than just by ourselves.
So food logs, you're asked to track them. For those that are doing it electronically, we'll chat this weekend, and if you're using MyFitnessPal, I can connect that way so you don't have to fill it out in paper. But if you do stick with paper, then I do want you to turn them in each week so that I can review them and offer suggestions, or if we have questions on exactly some things. Sometimes I'm looking at them and I can tell just from looking at them, there's no way you're eating enough to fuel what you need to do. And that's going to lead to you probably overeating on that cheat day, and where things are a little lax. So please make sure you're doing them. If you are going to turn them in, just put them in the slots. Otherwise, we'll compare MyFitnessPal usernames and we'll get that connected. So just something to keep in mind as we go through. We'll start sharing more of some recipe tips and stuff within the Facebook group, to keep some ideas generating there, so you're not having the same thing or feel like you're having the same thing every day, unless that works for you. It doesn't work for me. So
I'm notorious for that.
I know you are, and it works for you, but it doesn't work for me. I feel like I'm having leftovers every day, because every day is Groundhog Day. So do you guys have any questions? Anything we didn't cover that you're curious about right now?
Do you guys have any struggles that you're coming up on, or things that have been hard?
Cooking. I don't really
cook.
like. My mom always made frozen meals and stuff, and now I'm in college on my own. It's like I gotta learn how to cook and how to eat healthy.
Come to my house.
Okay, I will.
We will have so much fun. I love teaching people. That's great, because then knowing that, I can throw out some basics, like let's start with this basic skill type thing, because young people are plagued with this for sure, including my son, and it takes a desire too. You have to want to do it. My son doesn't want to do it, so. But if you want to, yeah, there's definitely some things we can work on, just baby steps, right? And then there's some convenience things that we can do too. So knowing that, I think it would be helpful probably, as the three of us are going through the grocery store, we can just kind of snapshot pictures of some of our favorite things so that you guys know what they are. Maybe that'll help you.
What's nice with the Farrell's plan too is it's so simple. So if you're struggling with cooking, you can do some bulk prep for your proteins. Like you can cook up some chicken breast, you can do some hamburgers, ground turkey, things like that, and just use that as one of your staples. And then the rest of your stuff can be like grab and go. So your fruits and vegetables, slice those up, have them ready to go. Hard-boiled eggs, yogurt, cheese sticks, almonds, things like that. Then you can just grab and go, and that kind of relieves a little pressure on you for feeling like you have to meal prep and cook all this great stuff. You really don't. But
Yeah, you can
Exactly.
figure out your protein and get it prepped. It's pretty easy to make a meal and get, several days worth in one shot.
And Jill, that was the hardest thing for me. Probably how old are you? You're very young.
18.
Yeah, 18. Oh my God. That was the hardest thing for me. I didn't know how to cook it. My dad always cooked when we were younger, so that was the one thing I was like, I don't even know how to cook this. But now we have all these recipes available, right? We have Pinterest, we have Google. I mean, that stuff wasn't around as much when I was 18, so at least you have that. But anything that you want more information on, you just put a shout out in the group, and we can jump in to help out.
we can give you some real simple stuff to do. And I think I'm safe to say this for the majority of this. We're busy.
Yeah.
We're busy. We have jobs, we have kids, we have school, we have all of this stuff going on, and it is hard to make time for that, but it's totally doable. We can do it.
And we want you to make time. Why? Because it may not be important to you now, the nutrition part, but eventually you'll see how important it is. Eventually. So, because it's really going to fuel your workouts.
So my other ask before we wrap up is I was looking at all the yellow cards today, and very few of you have goals written out beyond that first week. So if you don't have them, by Monday, end of day, you need to have them, because that's really important. That's going to keep you focused when things start to struggle a little bit, and when the energy is a little wavering of why you're here. So make sure you take some time to think about that this weekend if you haven't. Any other questions? All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Thanks, Janette.
Yep.
Big thanks to Janette. Thanks, Pam. Thanks.
Yeah. Everybody have a great weekend.